All right, everyone, we are ranking all of the unusual rooms and the rare rooms of blueprints. We are still not covering rooms that you find. So this is all stuff that you can find in your initial room directory. However, we are going to touch on some light spoilers, right? We've assumed at this point that you've reached room 46. Maybe you're working on your sanctum keys. That's pretty much the mentality that we're going to have going into this. So we can talk a little bit more at length about some of the stronger ideas that some of these rooms can have. As always, I'm joined by my good friend Shagraz, a head playtester for Blueprints. Let's start off with the aquarium. Aquarium is a funny one because we thought it was more common than it was. It's actually technically unusual. Aquarium is a room that is every single color. It costs a gem, and it's a tea room. What do you think about the aquarium, Shagraz?
Aquarium's pretty good. A tea room costs a gem. That's a little unfortunate, but tea rooms are good. Has a lot of synergy with a lot of different effects. I don't know, solid A or B.
Okay, that's really interesting because I love the aquarium because I feel like there's always a lab experiment that you can trigger off of it, including like adding more aquariums to the deck. The more of the game you play, like the stronger you can make the aquarium. With upgrades, you can start spamming stars. You can like get some power generation going, which is really quite notable. And I don't know, I feel like even terraces making it free or getting 5 extra steps from a nursery or a sleeping mask. I feel like it's really strong. Like I'd put it probably A minimum, but I think it has a genuine S tier potential if you think if you think that might be possible.
It's not as good as a courtyard, which you're almost guaranteed a shovel or a sledgehammer. Here you're just gonna get like, I don't know, some dingy little item with like maybe like a compass. So I'm not saying it's bad, but I think the gem costing a gem is a little much.
Do you ever think that you would consider axing an aquarium because you could get the experiment that adds more aquariums to your deck? Or do you think that that's kind of like a poor use of an axe?
I think that's a fine use, but you'd have to like really like be all in on that one experiment. It's not bad axing, like you can axe like a big gem cost stuff, but axing something that's costs 1 gem but you always draft when you see it anyways is actually really helpful, and will just kind of, I think it'll help you more than axing like, I don't know, like a trophy room, which you only see like once in a blue moon. So
yeah, and the fact that it being a green room means that you can get a terrace and make the gem cost free already probably like helps in that regard as well. I will say really nice that the aquarium has a hole in it that you can dig. And just to say it again, the upgrades for this room are extremely powerful, and I really love being able to spam them with laboratory experiments. So I don't know. I personally really like the aquarium. I think if we're not ranking this strictly on upgrades, I think I can absolutely live with A. But I think once you start getting into like electric eel territory or starfish territory, S tier contention.
I think A is fine for sure.
Yeah, especially because gems are going to be a little easier too as you progress. Next up is Archives. And I'm going to tell you right now, Archives is maybe my favorite room in the whole house. It is a red room, a 4-way split. It does not cost any gems. You can find items inside of Archives. You can even get laboratory triggers off of Archives. But it does have a very notable downside. And that downside is for the rest of your day, one of those options is going to be covered up and you won't know what it is. One final thing about Archives too is that it does conduct power. So if you are antsy and you really want to connect Boiler Room to a laboratory, then it's a really strong way to do it. But Archives is really fascinating. What do you think about that, Chugrose?
Okay, Archives. Wow, here we go. Red rooms. I love red rooms. I think they're really fun. Now, the power level of this is maybe on the lower end just because its effect is such a downside. Now, I find that downside really fun, and I like to draft it just to have a sweet Archives day. But it's pretty detrimental. A 4-way room that costs 0 gems is really powerful, though. So I don't know. I'm thinking like a B tier for this Archives.
Yeah, I think B tier is very fair because that's truly right down the middle. If you can get a laboratory experiment where it will trigger every time you draft an archived room, that's a lot of fun and a potential way to get a lot of stars or permanent allowance or whatever. So it's really interesting in that way. I do think Archives gets better later in the day when you're already drafting a lot and you're not going to encounter that downside nearly as often. But the fact that it can give you items that it could be sheltered if you're lucky enough to see it early on, that it's a 4-way room with no gem cost. It's really interesting. There's a part of me that wants to give it A, but I think A is too generous for a room that can be as swingy and polarizing.
Yeah, I think if you don't count the downside, just like a 4-way room with that doesn't cost any gems, I think that is S tier. So its downside is pretty detrimental. I think that bumps it down to B for me at least.
Yeah, and it's funny to think of archives as like Passageways Evil Twin. They're really similar rooms, the two of them. They conduct power. They got 4 rooms, but like they're very, very different use cases, which I think is a really cool aspect of Blueprints. Okay, next up is the attic. This costs 3 gems, and you will get 8 items inside of it. It is a blue room, and it is a dead end. What do you think about the attic, Shagraz?
So this room is the reason why aquarium is like not my favorite, costing a gem, because you want the gems for when you want gems for when you see a room and you really want to draft it. This is like one of the main reasons you want to have a lot of gems. I think attic is an amazing room. 8 items is just like is absurd amount. Like you get so much, you just fill up your inventory. You normally it pays for itself or close to it, and you get a lot of just really good items. And yeah, it's a dead end, but I don't know. I'm drafting this every time I see it, most often than not.
Yeah, attic is extremely good, as you said. Recently, I beat curse mode, and one of the main ways I was able to do that was making attic a little more common and just being able to fill up your inventory with items, which is so difficult to do in curse mode, where your steps really matter, where your resource management isn't the easiest. In that mode, I was able to just grab an early parlor, get an extra gem, and have all the items I needed more or less for a power hammer. It was very, very strong. I guess I got the battery pack from the workshop, maybe not everything from it, but still, it's extremely powerful. There is one funny thing I would like to say about the attic, and that is that one of the 8 items can be a single coin, which always ausses me every time that happens. But still, even if you're just getting 7 items for the 3 gems, the items you're getting are very high quality, and the potential range for them is even stronger than like a walk-in closet, in my opinion.
Yeah, you'll get a random coin every now and then, but you're getting 7 items in that world anyways. No, I think it's S tier. I think it's absolutely amazing. Like I will drop this almost every time. The only time I probably won't drop this is when I have 3 gems, is if it'll literally just dead end my day. If that's like my last door, that's the only time I won't draft it. But if I have at least another door, I'll probably draft this more often than not.
Yeah, it's funny. I almost want to push you to A tier with the attic, but considering that we beat room 46, we're working on sanctum keys. I don't think the gem economy is that difficult for like a player in that range. And really, you just want items, right? Like items are arguably more important than gems and even keys at that point, because those items are going to help you generate those things. If you find the metal detector, boom, like your keys are more or less solved. If you find that card key, excellent, right? Now you don't need a utility closet. There's a lot of really like subtle but great ways that your day gets improved with the attic. And considering we easily are starting the day off with 2 gems, and it's not that difficult to get just like 1 more, I think I could see an S tier.
Yeah, I don't think like I said, I think this is what you're saving and kind of hoarding and being kind of cheap on the gems for other rooms. I think this is what you're saving for. This is your big payoff. You're getting a lot. You're getting at least 1, maybe even 2, sometimes 3 gems back from the attic. So even then, it's like it just pays for itself, if not like not fully, but you get a little bit of a refund. I don't know. This is just kind of everything you want. It just kind of fills up your inventory. You get a bunch of items. You're like, okay, do I get a shovel? Do I get like metal detector? Like this kind of builds your day to kind of tells you what you're gonna do. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it's basically a mega closet. It's the best closet anyone could ever ask for. And we all know the closet's like decent. It's like a decent room. So, all right. Next up is the ballroom. This is a corridor blue room with a very special effect. Every time you enter the ballroom, your gem count will become 2. If you have more than 2 gems, it will lower. But if you have less than 2 gems, it will raise. What do you think about the ballroom?
Okay, ballroom is yeah, this one's a tough one to decide. It's pretty okay. More often than not, especially like late game after you've beaten room 46, you kind of have your gem economy online and you kind of have a lot of gems. So then it kind of just becomes a detriment. I'm usually not drafting it. There are niche cases where you put this in like a really good spot and you're just kind of, you draft a room, you spend 2 gems, you come back, you get 2 more gems, and it becomes really good then. But it's pretty niche and kind of hard to pull off. I think the upside is that most rooms do cost 2 gems. Like there's a few that cost more, like a few that cost 3, but most are gonna cap out 2. So you can just like get 2, go draft something for 2, come back, get 2 more. That's really good. Obviously, it's step intensive, but that's less of a problem. More just like the more often than not, you're gonna have more than 2 gems.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really do appreciate that it's pretty rare to spend 3 or more gems at one time. So it isn't the hardest thing in the world to like grab your laboratory, grab your courtyard, and certain things like that. Maybe grab a nursery and then get like a little gem rebate from the ballroom. I think it's pretty solid. I don't think it's busted because you're either spending a lot of steps to continuously get your gems, or you're kind of locking yourself out of the really powerful options like attic, which we just mentioned, right? I would take an attic any day over the ballroom, even though the attic's a dead end, because those permanent items that you're getting are going to make the rest of your day so much better. Maybe you can workshop them. So yeah, I'm kind of mixed in the ballroom. I think like probably a B tier. I think more often than not it's good, but maybe not like extremely good. What do you think?
I feel like it's really niche. I've been finding myself like just seeing it and being like, I can't pick that. I have 5 gems. I have 10 gems. Like I just can't pick a ballroom and go down to 2. Just I feel like more often than not that's kind of where I am. I think early game it's pretty good before you beat room 46, and maybe like a little bit after that it's pretty decent. But the more you play, the worse I think this gets.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I could live with C. I'm thinking maybe B for ballroom for now, and then maybe later on we bump it down if we find that there's a lot of B stuff that's kind of, because I think it's probably the worst of the B tiers if I were to like put it in that tier. Okay, well then let's throw it in C tier then. I'll
Its uses, and when it's good, it's really good. But more often than not, it's either going to not do anything, and then you'll keep going, and you're like, oh, I can't even go back. I don't know. I think it's okay.
Okay. Next up is the boiler room. This does cost a gem. It is a T-shaped room, an interesting T-shape, by the way, not the kind of usual setup that you expect. And it generates power. There's a puzzle you have to solve to make it happen, but this is how you get power, more or less. What do you think about the boiler room?
Boiler room. Here's another tea room that costs a gem, which I was just kind of bashing a little bit. But this one gives you power, and power is very, 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 very useful in the game. No, I think it's a great room, tea room that can power different things, and has the effect of whichever door you have powered. If you draft from that door, you're more likely to see powered duct rooms, or rooms that can accept power one way or the other. So it helps you kind of get to your laboratories, get like the connections going, and that'll keep going as long as there's a connection, and it's powered. So that effect's actually really nice because you can kind of tailor what you're going to draft, which is a little bit more difficult in this game, but this is one of the ways you can do it.
Yeah, I will say a lot of the rooms that generate power are red rooms, which are they can be pretty scary, right? Like you can find that weight room, that archives, even the dark room, which by the way, I find it very annoying that the dark room does not turn on when there's power running through it, but whatever. So it can be a little scary at times, but then there's also like laundry room, which becomes very powerful when it's got a bit of power to it, or heaven forbid, you can get a pump room in there, which is like tremendously helpful for quite a few puzzles. So the boiler room I find really interesting because there's a lot of days where you just don't care about it, but the days where you care about it, or when you have that goal that needs it, like it is the most important thing for you. So I don't really know how to rate it. What do you think, Sugarose?
It's weird. I'd probably just put it next to aquarium. They both have like their niche uses, and like when it's amazing, it's just kind of sometimes it's just the only thing you're looking for. You need the boiler. You're like, I'm just gonna power something today, and even on those other days when you've already powered things you want to power, it's just good. Like you can I need a 4-way room. Like I'm gonna power this direction. Try to get a passageway. Try to even get an archives or a weight room. Yeah, there's some downsides, but if you need 3 more doors, that's a nice way of doing it. Yep.
Yeah, I'm between like B myself because I feel like you don't always care about it. It's not like, oh, I'm going to get a star from the observatory, but at the same time it is a tea room, so even though it costs you the gem, it's like never really going to be bad, right? Like you're always at least marginally happy to see it. I think I could live with A. I'm leaning B for boiler room myself, but do you feel pretty strongly it's an A tier?
I think there's enough things to do in the boiler room that and enough reasons to want it. And like I said, just being able to just I'm gonna power this door. I know I'm more likely to get a duct room. That helps even when you're if let's say you have an archives day and you're like, I'm gonna just have this powered up, and one of your archived rooms it looks like it has the glowing symbol. Well, you narrowed down what it could possibly be. So just like minor things, but I think it's pretty good. I think it's A.
Well, you know what? I'll give it A with this caveat that I am a big fan of the starfish aquarium room that gives you stars as opposed to the one that generates power. So if we can appreciate power being important, we can appreciate an aquarium that can be spammed a lot more fun and interesting ways. So that's my little take right there. All right, next up is the bookshop. Bookshop is really interesting. It is a store. It's an L shape. It can only be drafted from the library. So if you're wondering, what the heck, I've never seen this, make sure you've got some dice or something from your library. Eventually you'll get there. What do you think about the bookshop, Shagraz?
Yeah, as just like a normal room, it's bad. It's just an L room. It doesn't really do much. Now, the stuff you buy in there is a lot of books and a lot of books that will help you in this game. Once you're kind of stuck and don't know what to keep doing, there's a lot of stuff in here. So once you've bought out the shop, it's not the best room, but before then, it's kind of all you're looking for. So I don't know. I think it's a C room, maybe even a D room if you're not counting the books you buy in there. But that's like less of like a tangible, like I'm gonna help this run. It's more of like this is an overarching like knowledge, which is kind of the whole game. So it's tough. It's tough to rate. I don't know what do you.
Yeah, I think I would rather go C than D, only because the book knowledge is huge. And actually, a really nice thing about the bookshop only being draftable from the library means it doesn't really clutter up your drafting pool all that often. It's really just like a slight chance from the library when you draft it, right? So if it were always in your pool, I could see a D, because once you buy it out, there's no reason to ever use it again. And that's kind of where I'm at personally. But I think just to give it a bit of a nod with that information and the fact that it doesn't just like screw over your deck, I think is like helpful in its favor. Okay, next up is Chamber of Mirrors. This is an interesting room. It looks like a dead end. It is really not. But in order to open up the pathways, you have to basically open it from the other sides. So effectively, it is a dead end because it's not actively progressing you in a certain direction. However, if you can solve the puzzle of the Chamber of Mirrors, you can add permanent copies of floor plans to your deck, which is very powerful. I found a den in mine. In fact, I think most players might just find a den as one of their two options at first, which of course I'm going to add an extra copy of that to my deck. I did say no to the wine cellar. I thought I'm good on dead ends and gems, but I've seen people get extra observatories and things like, could you imagine an extra observatory in your day getting 2 triggers without a telescope? Like, that's ridiculous. So there's definitely a huge permanent upside that comes from solving this, but it is very awkward. What do you think, Shagraz?
Yeah, Chamber of Mirrors. It's hard. It's a fun room that you kind of want to like solve and like go around trying to do the little mini game that comes with the Chamber of Mirrors, but it's hard to pull off. And yeah, the upside's pretty decent, but it's not the best, and it does really ruin your drafting day because it just adds a copy of every room into your draft pool again. So it really just makes your drafting pool like really like big and unwieldy, and like all like these rooms that you drafted, like, oh, I put a lavatory down somewhere early, I don't have to see that again. You'll see it again. Just a bunch of dead ends you'll see. I don't know. I think it's a C room. I think it's fun, and there's a lot. I think it's fun and there's a big upside, but it's really hard to pull off, and most times you probably just pass on it.
Well, it's certainly an easy D room if there isn't like a good prize or even like a temporary prize. I think it's never worth it. It is cool that that permanent upside can be worth it. Now, there is luck involved. For every observatory someone's adding in, people are being presented, I don't know, an extra closet or something, right? But I'm actually curious, though, can you draft an extra copy of something that you've already drafted? Like, does it just double your entire directory, or does it at least remove stuff that you've already put on? Do you know the answer to that?
It just adds like on the directory that you already had that day back to your pool. I'm pretty sure. So it's just one of everything again. Yeah. If you've drafted something, you'll be able to see it again.
Interesting. I will say, probably a pretty helpful room for when you're trying to pull off your sweepstakes day. If you are really looking for dead ends, maybe adding an extra copy of all of them to the deck could be helpful. But then it does get awkward because, again, you're sifting through everything else that isn't a dead end. So, neither here nor there. But maybe helpful if you can set it up with a constellation that's got like the 4-way cross as well as Draxus for dead ends. I feel like you could see a bit of a use there. But again, super niche, right? Once you pull that off once, you'll never care about it ever again. And I don't think that changes the Chamber Mirror being a C tier. I totally agree with that.
I don't know if the only problem with this room during your like sweepstakes days, you have so many limited slots to put dead ends. that it's really awkward to put a chamber of mirrors down somewhere where you could have put a dead end instead, and that's just probably just better because it's not a dead end, but it effectively is a dead end. So you're putting it in a dead end slot and it doesn't count. So it's really awkward in that sense.
So even in this world, I think still a C tier. A niche, very interesting room, no doubt about it. But I think more often than not, I am actively avoiding this room when I see it. Okay, next up, we're going to be ignoring that classroom since we figure outer rooms are probably outside the scope of this just a little bit. We have a really great tier list entirely on outer rooms, which we'll definitely link down below. But next up is the Cloister. This is a 3-gem room. It is 4-way spots. It is a green room. What do you think about the Cloister, Shagraz?
Cloister. Okay, this room is a little bit too many gems for my liking. I love the 4-way room. I love the green aspect of this room. I like to draft this room a lot, but I don't think it's that powerful base. I think it gets way stronger when you can upgrade it. As a base, though, I think it's not the best. 3 gems is way too much, even for 3 rooms. Obviously, sometimes you're gonna need a cross room, and you're gonna spend 3 gems on it, but you're more often than not gonna want to. There is some dig spots in here. I think it's kind of weak as a base Cloister.
So there are a few cool things I will say. The first is that this is an easy way to get a permanent allowance once you've figured out the puzzle that's involved here. So even on challenge modes, it can still be nice to try and get 3 gems at one point to buy a Cloister exactly one time. Another fun thing is its combination with the secret passageway. So as you know, you can pick any color room from the secret passageway and guarantee that you'll be presented 3 options in that world. Now, green rooms are typically only on the east and the west side. So if you draft a secret passageway not on the east wing or west wing, you're basically guaranteed to find a Cloister. In my personal experience, I think I'm just getting lucky, but I keep getting presented the Cloister as my free option. And if you're wondering what the heck that means, well, if all 3 options in blueprints that are presented to you all have a gem cost, the first one will be 0. That's when it says special cost bypassed, if you ever see that message that pops up. And again, I think I've just been getting lucky with my free Cloisters. I don't think that Cloister itself is guaranteed. You probably could get a courtyard or something. But the fact that green rooms typically cost a gem and they can be manipulated with the position makes the Cloister kind of interesting in that world.
Yeah, I mean, when it's free, it's amazing. But most times you're going to see it. It's going to cost 3. And, if you have a terrorist that day, it's an incredible room, probably S tier. It costs 3 gems most times. So I think it's... Yeah, I think it's maybe C tier, honestly.
C feels really harsh. I mean, I know that it's 3 gems, but I feel like the 4-way split, there's a lot of ways to make the gem cost lower. You do get, and unlike Passageway, you get dig spots. Maybe items will spawn in here if you have combinations with other rooms. I feel like that's pretty harsh. I would go at least B personally, but
in my experience, most times you see a 4-way room, you're not gonna actually get all 4 doors use out of them. You're gonna put it in a room where a T room would have been the exact same thing, and you're paying the premium here, 3 gems for a 4-way room, and you're only getting, a T shape. So yeah, when you have a silver key and you bust it in a perfect spot for it, it's worth the 3 gems. But most times it's gonna be you're only gonna get like a T room doors worth of value out of it, which then it's like not the best.
That is a fair point. It's not always the easiest to get all 4 doors out of this. That is extremely fair. And the fact that it does rely on other rooms or interactions to really make this reasonable, because again, at its baseline, you would probably just want a passageway. That's 1 less gem. Sure, you're not getting dig spots, but if you're on a challenge mode or something, it's probably not the best, but at least you get a little allowance the first time you do it. But again, I think overall, I can live with a C tier.
Yeah, and I think you're a little biased because of the upgrades. When we talk about upgrades, we'll talk more about this. But yeah, as a base, I think it's C tier.
Absolutely. All right, next up is the conference room. This is a free tea room. It does not cost a gem, and it's got a special effect whenever you would spread items or resources throughout the house. Instead of spreading them through all those different rooms, they all spread right here in a convenient spot. What do you think about the conference room?
Okay, this room is kind of amazing. Like, I think I drafted almost every single time I see it. I think easy S tier, free tea room. Its effect is so powerful. How many times have you just like spread something in your house and your house is so ungodly big and you're just like looking around for it, like, oh, I need some fruit. What about if you need fruit? Like, well, you probably don't have, if you need the fruit, you probably don't have steps to go looking. and you don't want to go look through every like nook and cranny to find stuff. And this just puts it all in one place. It's a free tea room. It's just kind of incredible.
I'm with you. I'm never passing up on this room. A free tea room is basically hallway tier, which we can agree is one of the best rooms in the game. It just continues you moving without the cost of resources. The fact that it also does get all of your items and spots in one location is phenomenal. I pretty much hate spreading. I feel like spreading without the conference room is too weak or too fringe to even consider doing. So the fact that this basically enables those strategies also makes it extremely powerful.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where I draft an office and I don't even bother spreading because like, well, I'm not gonna go back for like 1 gold here, 3 gold there. Like, you have a conference room, and you can do that then. This works with a tomb as well. When you spread 5 gold down there, it'll be in the conference room. That saves you a lot of steps. So there's a lot of uses for this, and there's probably more that we're not talking about. But
I mean, and one really funny one to note too is the lab experiment that spreads dirt. It does spread dirt, right? It doesn't just make dirt appear. So if you want to see a really fun visual interaction, definitely consider checking that out with your conference room. It's really great. Okay, next up is the drafting studio. This is a corridor. It costs 2 gems, and it does give you a permanent room to add to your directory. What do you think about the drafting studio?
yeah, 2 gems, a little high, but who's ever passing up drafting studio? You basically don't. I think S tier, like being able to add new rooms to your drafting pool is amazing. Yeah, it is. I guess you could say it's a little like the bookshop that once you've gotten everything, it's kind of bad. But I think the upside is just so powerful, and like it just have the fun of like new rooms is too strong. I don't think I'm ever passing up a drafting studio.
Yeah, the fun of new rooms is very interesting, and I will say that as good as those rooms are, like, I don't know that any of them are like so backbreakingly OP that like, it's like, oh, you absolutely need to be drafting them every single time you see them. That being said, I do think the fact that the drafting room does run out and that the 2 gems cost can be pretty steep, I think A tier is probably better.
Yeah, I could see A tier because like once you do it 8 times, you probably don't want to do it anymore, and probably maybe like some like a curse mode or dare mode, you're probably not drafting like a clock tower or something that's like a dead end and like gonna hurt you in the long run or like in the short run. So yeah, I could see A, but there's some really good rooms like Kennel's amazing, Dovecoat's amazing.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, you can get a rebate as well. So, it's not even always 2 gems. I think A is pretty solid.
And you can see the Great Hall, like what doors to open from there. So that's also, it's not nothing. Saves you some keys.
Yeah, that actually saved me on my dare mode when I had exactly 1 key and I knew I needed to open up the antechamber lever from the Great Hall. So yeah, you're right. That is a fringe but really fun use of the drafting studio. Love it. Okay, next up is the foundation. We have all drafted a foundation and there's a lot of debate as to where the best spots for it are, but for what it's worth, this is a tea room and it will stay there forever. What do you think about the foundation?
Free tea room, like what more can you want, guys? Yeah, I mean, S tier, it's just like you need it. You need it in a good spot. That's the only problem is you don't always want to just slam it when you see it, but most people will on their first playthrough because they're just like, oh, what is this new room? I think it's S tier. There's a lot of good uses for it. Now the question is, where is the good optimal spot? And that's debatable for sure. I could see people who like it early because they just like a nice tea room in a good spot where they connect to it early. They just get 2 rooms. I could see the same use for it late game, but then it's harder to get to all the time. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I love the foundation. I'm right there with you. It's an easy S tier. I personally like them later in ranks when possible because they're basically like unlocked doors, right? Like they're already. It's true that maybe one of them could be like a security door or something, but that pathway that you're entering to and from are going to be doors that are just like you don't need to spend a key on. So that gets a little more valuable in the later ranks, and then it maybe makes your antechamber shenanigans a little easier. You're not spending so many steps to backtrack once you get your basement key. But yeah, I think as you said, there's some cool uses in the early game too. So don't be beating yourself up if you've got an early game foundation. I think it's just a solid room altogether, and you only need to do that elevator puzzle once to reach it on the backside. So I think that's also really helpful. Okay, next up is the foyer. This is an orange hallway. It costs 2 gems. And from now on, all of your hallways are always unlocked. What do you think about the foyer?
This is one of the better hallway payoffs. Just having everything unlocked is really nice. Not having to worry about keys from hallways. I really like this room. 2 gems is a little steep, but considering that it just saves you so many keys, it's probably worth it in the long run. Having opening this up and then like not having to use any keys in the Great Hall is kind of one of the best feelings in this game. I think just open them all up. Yeah, I think it's a really really solid room. I could see A, I could see B, but I'm really fond of this room. I'd probably go A if I had to choose.
Yeah, I think A is probably the spot that I would put as well. I could even see an argument for S. I mean, the fact that it basically like saves you so many resources. Yeah, 2 gems are a lot, and it's not even a dead end, right? Like this continues. In fact, it's kind of like a corridor, right? Because this door is going to be unlocked that you're continuing from. You mentioned the Great Hall. That's a really fun combo, but even like vestibule, right? Having it always be unlocked is really helpful. Makes your passageway even stronger. And heaven forbid, you just didn't draft a hallway earlier on. Well, now it's even stronger because it's going to be unlocked for sure. I think A tier is probably the way to go. I could see arguments for some other options, but I think it's very good. I would probably even put it like right there, like right behind aquarium. Next up is the freezer. This is a dead end, and it's a tomorrow room. When you draft the freezer, your gems and your coins are frozen. They can no longer be spent throughout that day. However, the very next day, those will thaw out and they will be added to your pile. So what do you think about the freezer?
Okay, freezer is a wow. This is a weird room, right? It kind of destroys your day. Your day's like it's over probably. You can still do some stuff, but for the most part, you're kind of saying you're done with this day. But your next day, you're gonna have a lot of extra gems and a lot of extra coins. And this game's all about kind of just wanting that one big day, anyways. So this really helps for that. I think this room is really powerful. Yeah, sometimes you'll see it early and you won't have a lot of gems, you won't have a lot of coins, and it'll be kind of weak. You just pass on that. Maybe you see it later. I think it's really powerful. I think A, maybe even S. But yeah.
I think it's an A tier room as well. Very, very strong. I personally love it. I very rarely pass up on it. But the cool thing is you can pass up on it, right? Like even though it will basically end your day in terms of coins and gems, you don't have to draft it every time you see it. So if it's not helpful for you, you just ignore it. But then if your day's almost done and you want a little extra value for your next day, boom, there it is. Another cool thing about the freezer is if you have a furnace or a sauna, you can actually unthaw the frozen gems and coins that you have. So you can kind of have the best of both worlds. You can have it so that you can continue on your day. And then when you're finally done and you're ready to make your next day even better, you just hop back in and freeze it up. That does also mean there's a little puzzle in the freezer, which is fun to solve as well. I also don't think it's possible to draft the freezer twice in a row. So it's pretty nice to get it when you can.
You draft the freezer, you will not see the next day. So there's no freezer chaining. I would say be careful about the furnace. It's not all free.
That's for sure. But I do agree. I think A tier is solid, and I'm going to be biased. I'm going to throw it right up there. Okay, next up is the furnace. Funny enough, this is a dead end. It's a red room, and it makes red rooms more likely to show up. What do you think?
I'm a big fan of red rooms. I love them all. This is one of the worst ones. I mean, like, because you'll start seeing more red rooms, which is funny enough. And me saying that I love them, but like you see them too much and they can kind of hurt your day really bad. I still think it's okay. You're not really drafting this most times. Most times you're just gonna be like, you want to pass. It is one of my favorite powered rooms if you can power it up. No spoiling on what you get, but it's probably my favorite of those. Yeah, I don't know. I like I said, I'm a really big fan of red rooms, so I will do red room builds. I'll do Blessing of General days, other stuff that I probably won't be speaking about in this one, but yeah, I really like it, but I don't think it's that great. Probably just a D, honestly.
Yeah, I was really happy to hear you say that. I was afraid with all the red room hype that you might go beyond that. I think I too love red rooms. I am a funeral parlor stan. I'm not brave enough for the empty closet, but maybe I will be if I start shifting everything to red. This is a scary room. It's usually a bad room. It's usually worse than lavatory because lavatory, yeah, it's a dead end, but it's not going to make the rest of your pulls like so sweaty and scary. There are some fringe uses. It can be powered, like Shagraz said, which is fun. Obviously, there are some puzzles that really care about it. For the most part, though, I think it's just not the best. If you get an early furnace, it can be fun to maybe like try to get aquariums going if you have a lab experiment. I've done that once before, and that was a lot of fun. Like, there are fun uses for the furnace, but more often than not, it's just going to make your day actively worse.
Yeah, I'd say the amount of times you see like you go into a dark room and then you click a random thing and it's the furnace. This is really funny. There's a niche thing that you can see with the archives because when you see the furnace and when when you have the furnace and you see a red room in your draft, it'll have like a little heat haze. So if you have an archives, which you're more likely to have because of the furnace, and you don't see a red room, but you still see the haze, that third room is probably a red room. So
True. Yeah, that is a fun use. And actually, I don't know if it has to be sheltered for this to be the case, but sometimes you find dig spots and sometimes there are even items in the furnace. So, it's not always the worst, but it's it's usually the worst. All right. Anyway, the gallery. This is a room that, as far as I know, can only be accessed once you reach room 46. Maybe it's just that rare in general. It is a puzzle room, and it is quite a puzzle. What do you think about that, Shugraz?
I won't be talking too much of the puzzle. As a room itself, it's, a free corridor, so not the best. I'll say once you solve the puzzles in here, it's pretty powerful, so it's worth it. But I would recommend people don't just sit here and stare at it forever. I'd say, like, look at it, come back later. Like, it takes a while, but you'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I'm with you. In fact, having spoken to people that make blueprints, this has been one of the funniest rooms ever from a developmental perspective, because in the past, in playtesting, you could see this room before room 46, and it was just like the killer of days, right? Like you step inside a gallery, you're just like in the tank trying to figure out what the heck is going on, trying your best to solve this total head scratcher of a puzzle. And you're just like spending hours and hours and hours, and you're frustrated, and it just totally kills your momentum. If you had goals for the day, maybe you've forgotten about them. It's really awkward. So now it's been made more rare so that it's not just going to kill a new player's day. But the funny thing is, because it's more rare, some players feel an immense pressure to solve it right then and there, because they might think to themselves, I'm never going to see this again. Well, just like Shagraz said, it is not the play to do that. Give it a lot of thought. Maybe take some screenshots and think about it a lot when you're not playing the game. There are so many puzzles and blueprints that are better in your subconscious. And obviously the Christopher Manson surreal artwork is like designed for that very purpose, which I think is really fun. And then, once you pull it all off, it's basically like a free parlor room where you don't have to guess, which is like really nice. You get some little goodies in there. It's a solid room, I would say. And in fact, the artwork is like some of my favorite in the whole game. But yeah, for the fact that it can basically kill newer players or players who are not disciplined enough to pass on it, it's a little awkward. What do you think, Sugargirls?
Yeah, once you solved everything, it's pretty powerful. Probably A or S, but before then, it's just kind of a nothing room. I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe B tier for this. Maybe higher if you've already solved it.
Yeah, I think I want to give it A, but like I think the fact that it's like such a killer of runs for so many people, it's a little awkward. But just do know that it does obviously get better once you solve it, and there's some good stuff there, which is cool. Next up is the garage. This costs a gem. You get 3 keys out of it. There's a trunk that can be opened with car keys. You'll basically always see it on the west wing, 4 tiles up. Pretty interesting room. What do you think, Showgirls?
Kind of amazing. You're kind of always gunning for it. Usually when I start my new file, my new game, first thing I'm doing is try to get a utility closet and then try to get a garage, open up that path. And 3 keys is really strong. I love this room. I think it's an A for sure.
Yeah, 1 gem for 3 keys is a very good trade-off. If you consider the price of gems and keys in the store, that's an excellent trade-off. It is a dead end, but if you have the utility closet, you can go back outside. So maybe if you have a trading post day, you can save some steps. So it's not always awful. Car keys, not a great item, very, very niche and fringe, but you can get a little extra value out of it.
You can upgrade this the first time you open up the trunk with car keys, so that's really powerful. And yeah, just having an outlet for your car keys. Like Demi was saying, the saving steps actually comes in handy more often than you would think on even days like that you just randomly powered it. So
yeah, I would probably put it in B personally, but you feel pretty strongly it's an A tier room.
Yeah, I mean, I guess once you've opened the West Wing path, it's not as powerful, but the fact that it's just not in your draft pool, it's literally you can only see it on the West Wing. It's not really bogging your draft pool down. I don't know. 3 keys is a lot, so sometimes you just need keys, and many a days, even like my later game files, I'm like, oh, I need keys really badly. Let me just, and it's nice that you can just like, I'm gonna start going up on the West Wing because I'm pretty likely to get a garage, and I really, really need keys, or I'm just dead. No, I really like it. I think A tier for sure.
Okay, we'll throw it in A tier then. I'll give it the nod. All right, next up is the Mount Holly gift shop. This is a shop that doesn't cost any gems. It's also a tea room, and you get it once you beat the game. and you can spend your coins for some fun items. What do you think about the Mount Holly gift shop?
Wow, the gift shop, just assuming you've bought everything out already, even then, it's a free tea room, like, and it triggers shop experiments and the like, including even some blessings. So this room's kind of amazing. Just free tea rooms, like, what more can you ask for?
Yep, easy S tier. I couldn't agree more. And those are fun things to buy. And even exactly once you've bought them all out, there's still a great use in that it's a T-shaped room that's also a shop. Shops aren't the easiest thing to draft. So excellent stuff there. Okay, next up is the Great Hall. There are 7 doors in the Great Hall, all of which are locked. Eventually, you can make it a 4-way room. And there's also an antechamber lever, and there's also some items in here. What do you think about the Great Hall, Shugraz?
Now this room is, yeah, this room's a little difficult, but I think this room's just really good. I mean, it has a lever, like, that's just really good. 4-way room and no gems. It's you do need the keys, but there's like ways around it. Once you get like pretty good at it, you can kind of suss out like where the door is, at least get it to a 50-50 for most of the time, most part. Or you could just come back, try to draft like a drafting studio later, or try to get a foyer and then like come back and it's free, or just get like a lockpick and then some of the doors are open, and when you get free, even if you open a room that's a door that's nothing, well, you know the other 2 on the side have something in it. So I don't know. There's just a lot of ways around the downside, which it is a pretty big downside. But some days you have a lot of keys, and or you can also just do different things to mitigate it.
Yeah, Great Hall's really fun with a lockpick, which is a fun little combination. Yeah, the fact that it's got a lever, I think, makes it a very strong room. It is an awkward room, right? If you don't have a foyer or a lockpick or your keys, truly figured out, it's not always a slam dunk. But the ultimate result is getting a 4-way door and a lever and even some other items. I mean, it's a really good room. I kind of want to give it A tier. I could see B tier because it's not just necessarily a slam dunk, but there is a lot to be said about the Great Hall. And hopefully once you've reached room 46 and you're working on your sanctum keys, you've like got a pretty good swing of things with your resources.
Yeah, I think if you're not like as familiar with the Great Hall, it's probably not as good if you're just kind of randomly opening doors. But once you figure out that like, okay, like the items will never be in the middle room, and then you can kind of like eliminate certain doors 50-50, and even have like a metal detector can sometimes tell you like which side the items are on. So like either to go for that or not to go for that if you really need the door. There's a lot of ways to like figure out and kind of suss out like what the good room what the right key to open is. So I think it's A, but I could see if you're like a newer player and not as familiar with it, it could be detrimental, and it could be a B or even C. But I think once you kind of figure out the quirks of the Great Hall and kind of how to play around it, it's really powerful.
Yeah, I'm on the fence myself. Yeah, I'm with you. I think B tier overall. It isn't just the slam dunk that you would like it to be, but it does have a lever. There's a lot of powerful synergies, and it will maybe be a 4-way door for you. So really, really good upsides for a room like this. Next up is Her Ladyship's Chamber. The next time you step into the boudoir, you will get 10 steps. The next time you step into the walk-in closet, you'll get 3 gems. What do you think about Her Ladyship's Chamber?
As a base room of just like, oh, I want to draft this for its value, I think it kind of sucks. It's not the best. Maybe even honestly D tier. Like it doesn't really do much, and you have to like go to you have to have 2 other rooms drafted, not both of them, and you have to like either go back if you already have them drafted. It's just like it doesn't really do much in that sense. Now there is a couple of things that make it pretty powerful. One is like it's not actually in your pool, because you can only draft it on the west wing going down. So it's like it's very difficult to like stumble upon this and like, oh, I break my day because it was dead ends. But if you're going down, you're probably looking for a dead end anyway, so that's pretty good. I want to give it like a D tier, but considering the chess piece that's in there, I think just for that alone, you probably bump it up 1. So I guess like a C tier. What do you think?
Yeah, it is nice that it doesn't just like linger around in your pool. The walk-in closet and the boudoir are both pretty common, so you can eventually squeeze the value out of it at the cost of steps, but you're drafting bedrooms that day, so maybe it all works out. I don't want to go too deep on the puzzle here. There is obviously a diary you can open up, and by reading it and learning something, you can squeeze even more value out of Her Ladyship's Chamber, which is pretty cool. I think I would give it a C tier. I think it's cute, it's fun, it's a lore-filled room, And it can have some uses. It will eventually be a guest bedroom, maybe. It could eventually be a wine cellar, maybe. But for what it's worth, I think it's a pretty fun room. So, okay, next up is the laundry room. This is a shop. It is a dead end. It does cost a gem. All those things by themselves sound pretty bad, but in exchange, you can launder currency, which means you can convert, coins to gems, gems to keys. There's all sorts of ways to go about it. It does cost coins up front, so it's not easy to go infinite, though you can. And it can also be powered up for some really crazy shenanigans. What do you think about the laundry room, Sugarose?
I think it's one of the most busted rooms in the whole game. The amount of crazy stuff you can do just completely cancel out some aspects of the game. Probably one of the main reasons I don't like it, but I think if you're struggling and you have a lot of money, this is like one of the best rooms in the game, if not the best.
Yeah, it's really interesting because once you've figured out your allowance to a decent degree where the upfront cost doesn't matter as much, something as simple as turning coins into keys can basically solve that entirely for you that day, right? And when you power it up, you can even do crazy shenanigans like shifting steps and things like that, which can be really relevant for curse mode. I think it's a really cool room. I don't always draft it. I'm not always excited to see it. Being a dead end does kind of stink, but there are some really powerful options that can be really useful when you power it up.
I don't like how it kind of trivializes the game, but like if you're struggling, like get a laundry room. It's kind of crazy how powerful this. Like it sounds like it's not. As you're like, oh, I can do some stuff. You can do some absolutely bonkers, like crazy stuff. I think it's really powerful. It is a little tedious of like, okay, I got to do some math. So I think that's why most people kind of ignore it.
Frankly, this might be one of the best outlets for money other than the showroom. You will more or less lock up a resource completely, which is really, really powerful. So then, well, what do you think as far as ranking goes?
I think it's S tier. I think like laundry room is just one of the most powerful rooms in the game.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, there are some really insane things you can do, and heaven forbid you power it up too. All right, next up is the library. There's two uses of this room. One is you can check out a book. You can place in a request, and then the next time you draft the library, you'll get that book to read and see it. And then when you draft out of it, you can see rooms that are more rare. What do you think about the library?
Library, it's one of the little architect symbol. It's really powerful. If you get this early, it's really good to draft, like get like a really rare room, like really early. Like, oh, I draft this and I get like a foyer early. So now I know I can do like a lot of save my hallways for later and like build around them, or like Great Hall becomes insane. Just a bunch of stuff like that. And like obviously unlocking the bookshop's amazing. And just like having the books to read, which, have a lot of lore and just clues in them. So yeah, I think it's a pretty decent room.
Yeah, I like the library a lot. I think it's probably a favorite room for new players because you're reading books, you're learning about the lore, you're learning about puzzle solutions, frankly, and then you get some rare stuff afterward. Now, the funny thing is, the later the game goes, if you've read the books already, you're like, okay, whatever. Or let's say you've manipulated the rarity of rooms. Well, then seeing the rare stuff might actually not be so good because you might start to see some weaker stuff that you've shipped to the bottom. So it does have some diminishing returns, but I think the early game uses that frankly last for quite a while. I mean, if you feel like you've solved everything in every book, you probably haven't. You probably haven't. I think it's a B2 room. Okay, next up is the locker room. This does cost a gem, and you can only find it on a day where you've drafted a pool. It's a corridor that also spreads keys throughout the house. What do you think about it, Sugarose?
The gem costs a gem, but it's just one, and spreading keys is really powerful, especially if you have a conference room to just kind of like put it all in one spot. A lot of the times, late game, you just need like one or two more keys. This will help you. And not only that, this is an outlet for those days where you have a lot of keys and maybe not a lot of other resources. You can just go in and start opening some lockers and see what you get.
Yeah, the locker room is really interesting because I think most spread effects are not really that powerful. The patio would be really strong spreading gems, but it only spreads them to green rooms. So that's a little unfortunate. Coins aren't really like anything that all that crazy. But spreading keys is useful. So even without a conference room, it can still save your day, which I think is really cool. Obviously, so much better with a conference room. And heaven forbid you get enough keys to open up everything in the locker room. It's pretty solid. The fact that it's kind of like a garage that continues moving on, I think is pretty decent. You're very likely to get at least 3 keys throughout your day. I think it's solid, but it's also limited by the fact that you're not always seeing it. It's not always in your pool. I'm not really too sure how to rank it, frankly.
I think it's a B room. I think like most times it'll just kind of be like nothing. It'll just be like, oh, it's a nice room, and you'll get a key or two. But sometimes it'll be like, I desperately need a key, and here we are, locker room, give me some. And some days it'll be like, I have 15 keys, and now I can do something with them. So that's pretty nice.
Speaking of ways to get lots of keys, next up we've got the Locksmith. This is a dead-end room. It does cost a gem, but you can get a very good rate on purchasing keys, way better than the commissary. You can get special keys, you can find lockpicks or sets of 3 at a time. What do you think about this, Shrugroz?
This is a dead end room, is what I'm thinking. Most times I don't really like it. It just kind of, most times I'm not desperate enough early enough to need keys, right? It's like you see this room and you're like, I might need keys later, so you put it down. And okay, it's a dead end room, so it's pretty detrimental in that sense. But most times I don't think I'm like that desperate on keys that I want to put a room that I have to spend money on. Now, once you get a lot of gold, it kind of becomes trivial, and it is nice being able to buy a special key or a lock pick. But it's kind of one of the weaker shop rooms, I think.
It is really weird that it's more rare than the kitchen and the commissary, but it's also a dead end. Keys are very important, but like, I don't know, like balance wise, it seems a little odd to me. Maybe they just felt like the locksmith should just be a one-way door. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine as far as the balancing goes, but the fact that it is a dead end, I think, is pretty unfortunate. I don't know where exactly to put it. Probably between B and C, frankly.
Yeah, I think it's probably a B, just because, having keys is good, and sometimes you'll need it. You can buy a lockpick here, that's pretty powerful. And if you buy a lockpick, then you won't see it in a random spawn, and that's pretty good because then you'll get another item. I will say this has one of my favorite, like kind of spoilery, Easter eggy interactions with something, which I won't sell out what it is, but yeah, one of my favorite in the game.
Yeah, there is a really funny interaction. All right. Next up is the Maids Chamber. This is a hybrid room. It's both red and purple, so it's a red room and a bedroom. Once you draft the Maids Chamber, items are less likely to appear in future rooms. What do you think, Shugraz?
Items are fun, and everyone loves picking up items. People don't like doing not picking up items. I hate this room. This is probably my least favorite room in the whole game. I know I am a red room fanatic, but even then, I will not draft the Maids Chamber unless I am forced to, if it's the only option. I absolutely abhor this room. I love hybrid rooms. I love red rooms, but man, this effect, I think it's just anti-fun. Like, it's just kind of like, give me more items. I want more items. So yeah, I really dislike this room. Probably D tier.
Yeah, it's really bad. I'm right there with you. It might be one of the worst rooms in the entire game. It's nice that it keeps moving. It's nice you can get like a big special cupcake in here, and it's also nice you can run payroll from the office, but I don't know that you should be picking this just to run payroll, right? There's a lot of really not so great things that come about it. Pretty strong in the late day. Hopefully you've got like a sleeping mask or, some way to squeeze a little bit of extra value out of it, and hopefully there's not a lot of rooms left that could have their items whisked away. But yeah, pretty bad room. I'm pretty okay putting it in D tier. It's usually one of the worst things to see. Next up is the master bedroom. This does cost 2 gems. You will get 1 step for every room in your house. What do you think about the master bedroom?
Okay, the master bedroom. I really like this room. It's pretty powerful. It gives you a lot of steps late game, which is kind of when you need it, and it's rare, so you won't see it till later. Again, sometimes late game, you're just like, oh, darn, I have like 10, 20 steps. Like, I really could use some more because I need to have a lot more to do. And it just kind of fills you back up from like kind of nowhere. You just kind of, sometimes it gives you 30, 40 steps. That's really powerful.
2 gems is steep. A dead end is steep. But you do get a lot of steps to keep moving, and you also get a king chess piece, which is pretty notable. Maybe the office is a lot more common, but still, it can be nice for your chess puzzles. That being said, I don't know. It is a weird room because like it's better in the late game, but then it's a dead end, and then do you really need more steps in the late day? I don't know. It's a little awkward in that way, and 2 gems is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, but you're not really drafting this unless you like need the steps anyways. So you can kind of see it like that. And also, you can only draft this on the east wing anyways. So it's not just, you're not going to randomly see it somewhere and like it's going to dead end you.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I think probably low B tier though. I don't know if it's necessarily like super strong, but it is, for what it's worth, it can be helpful, and it's fun to see it when you see it because, again, as you said, It's not really in your pool all that often. Okay, next up is the morning room. This room can only be found if you ate your eggs and bacon the day before from the kitchen, or if you've upgraded your nook to be a morning nook. It's a very strong room that gives you 2 gems and 2 gems the next day. What do you think about the green morning room?
It just gives you 2 gems right then and there for free. And yeah, you get 2 the next day, which also is also very helpful. You can only see it on the edge, classic most green rooms, but other than that, it's really powerful. I think you get an upgrade disc the first time you do it, so that's also really good. And there's some items that you can get other than just the gems. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good room. I think maybe A or even maybe B or A tier, something like that.
I would give it an S tier. I guess you could make the argument that you don't get to see it all that often, but this is such a good room. I mean, 2 gems up front, and it keeps moving too. It's not even like a dead end green room. So with the chance of getting more items in there, we love tomorrow rooms. We love setting up stuff in the future. So it's like a double parlor. I don't know. I love this room personally.
You always get the 2 gems here, and you're getting it the next day. And it's a green room for green synergies, so that's even better.
Yeah, let's just say there's a reason you can't just access this room normally. I think it's extremely powerful. Okay, next up is the music room. This also costs 2 gems. You've got a major key and a minor key. What do you think of this L-shaped room?
It's a really good room. It's an L room, not the best. 2 gems is a lot, but you're kind of only really drafting this late game. And late game, you're more looking for keys than you are gems, I think, because you just want to get those last couple of rooms open and look for some really good stuff. So yeah, I think it's pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, major keys are always helpful. Those are special and can be useful in a number of ways. And then even your regular key is pretty helpful too. I will also say this is super subjective and has nothing to do with gameplay, but I love the music in the music room. Not so ironically, right? It's very fitting that that's the case. I like it a lot. If I can swing the gem cost, I like to buy it. I maybe like high B. Okay, next up is the pump room. This can also only be found once you've got a pool going. It is a room that is L-shaped, and you can manipulate water with quite a few puzzles. What do you think of that?
The pump room. This one's a weird one to talk about because there's so much to do in the pump room. Like, there's so many different rooms it's connected to, and most of them care about the water being affected one way or the other. Not going to go into every specific detail, but yeah, this room's like really good, especially the first time you use it. You kind of can do some good stuff to like beat the game, but I'm sure you know that already. But even then, like, sometimes you want to like lower the pool. Sometimes you want to make your greenhouse have more water in it. Sometimes you want to like do other stuff. I don't know. This room, see, it's kind of like a boiler room where like once you've done it the first time, it loses its value. But even then, I feel like I'm always coming back to the pump room. There's always something I want to change every now and then. Even like late game, it's like, oh, I kind of need something from this room, and I need the water lowered, or I need the water up, or yeah. I think this is kind of, I think its effect is better than the boiler room, but obviously only being an L room is a lot more of a detriment.
I'll say this room melts my mind. I'm very good at the parlor room puzzles. I can deal with the billiard room. There's a lot of other puzzles that I'm solid at, but holy cow, something about the pump room is just mind-meltingly funny for me. The more that I play the game, the more I understand the mechanics behind it. So if you are someone like me, don't be dismayed. Eventually you will get there too, but holy freaking cow. I should say too that powering up the pump room is phenomenal. You get access to another tank that you can use to drain extra water, which is very, very strong. Like Shagras said, there's a lot of uses. It's not just one puzzle in here. And the way that you view the water levels changes the more that you play the game and have different goals, which I think is pretty fun. So really hard room to rate. I'd probably put it A tier just because it's so important for so many things, including, heaven forbid, you can actually pull it off on a day one day. It is a way to win the game, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I think it's just too important not to give it the nod, and it stays important. It stays relevant throughout most of the game.
Yeah, I think it's just a really good room. Yeah, I think that its effect is just powerful enough that you can just put it in A, even though it's just an L room.
Okay, next up is the bunk room. This is a funny one in that you are guaranteed 2 identical items in it, and it also counts as 2 of the same room. So if you've got a nursery or a sleeping mask, you'll get double triggers. If you've got a laboratory experiment, you'll get double triggers. It's a really fun room, but it is also a dead end. What do you think of that, Shugras?
Bunk Room. This one's weird because I really like the Bunk Room. You always get an item out of it, and it'll always be the same item twice because it's a Bunk Room, so there's double of everything. So you'll get something. Sometimes you'll get two bananas, not the best. Sometimes you'll get two gems, that's really good. Sometimes you'll get two keys, that's really good. That being said, it is just a dead end, and yeah, you get some synergies with it, but it is just kind of a dead end closet type of room with a little bit of upside. So I don't know what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when you think of it like a closet, it's pretty interesting because, like, the worst case scenario is that it's like two bananas, in which case you're like, okay, I've got more steps today, but there's pretty good odds of double key or double gem, which I think is like cool. So it's kind of like a purple closet in that you get extra synergies from other items and things like that. Bedrooms have a lot of synergies together, which is cool. So I'm personally pretty hot on it, also because there are some upgrades. The upgrades seem pretty fringe, and they kind of are. Personally, I'm going to pitch this here even before our upgrade tier list. I like the shop one a lot because shops are rare enough and coins doubling enough. Coins are a resource that you're not always spending, so you can get double value from that pretty easily. That being said, it's not a deal breaker either way. You can have many successful days without a bunk room. So I don't know. I think like low B tier, it's basically a purple closet.
It's a purple closet basically for most intense purposes, but it has an upside, so it is better than a closet. But it's B tier for sure. Just a nice B tier.
Next up is the Rotunda, or as our friends like to call it, the Rotunda. This is a 3-gem room. It is basically 4 ways, although not all of the 4 ways are accessible all the time. You have to hit that button to shift the L shape as much as you want. However, the rooms that you draft out of the Rotunda are also fully rotatable, just like they would be with a Dovecoat. What do you think, Shugraz?
This is a 4-way room basically. It does cost 3 gems. Now, I know I was being down on it, like on the Cloister, for basically being the same thing. Say the Rotunda is slightly better in that you can't get security doors, which if you have your security door act figured out, you want that. But most times you don't. So you're just like, okay, I'd rather not have to deal with it. But the fact that you can rotate from here is pretty powerful. But is it that much more powerful than like a Cloister? That's like a good question. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I tend to like the Cloister more because you get green room synergies, and obviously there's upgrades and dig spots and things like that.
I think the Rotunda's pretty powerful, but it is 3 gems. It's like really intensive. I think it's just C tier, honestly. Like high C tier. I'd go above Cloister, but yeah, you can put it wherever you want.
No, I'll put it there. I think that's fine. And I'm with you. 3 is a lot. And as we've said even earlier with the Cloister, it's not always often that every single door is going to get its value, which can make a room like this a little awkward, just based off like general use. But, for the uses that it's good, it's really good. All right, next up is the Sauna. This is a room that will only show up once you've drafted the pool. It does not cost a gem. It's a dead end. You'll always find an item in the sauna, typically a gem, but you can find some other stuff too. And it's a tomorrow room, so it will make your next day have 20 extra steps. What do you think about that, Sugars?
I'm not like that high on Sauna. It is just like it's a decent dead end if you need to put a dead end somewhere. And yeah, it helps your next day, but 20 steps is not that big of a deal in my opinion. Like, yeah, you start with 20 extra steps, but yeah, it's compared to like two gems or something. You'd rather have 2 gems like every time. And this is a dead end. Now this does help with the freezer, which it's really good in that scenario. We can kind of go back and forth and do some crazy stuff. But for the most part, I think this room's kind of lackluster, I would say.
I personally do like the sauna because the item that's guaranteed is useful. And I'm just big on tomorrow rooms in general. I feel like tomorrow rooms are cool because you just feel like you're setting up like an alley-oop for you to really have a great day the next day. I will also say too, in challenge modes, particularly curse mode, sauna is like so powerful and so incredible. It's balanced by the fact that it's hard to get because you need a pool and you need to draft it on a limited number of steps. So very, very difficult to do, but a really, really strong combo nonetheless. I'm kind of hot on the sauna, funny enough. So I'm not sure how to rank it.
Yeah, I'm pretty cold on the sauna. I think it's kind of mid. That being said, obviously in challenge runs, it's kind of amazing, but just in a normal day run, I don't know. I just think it's okay. It's not doing anything amazing.
Well, and it is fair that like in your normal playthrough, steps are probably like the last thing you care about. You would rather have a morning room give you 2 gems, or, you know, a clock tower give you more keys, right? Like those are so much more powerful because steps are a little more trivial. I do like the sauna though. I don't know, but I'm also, as a person, I enjoy saunas. I'm known for using a sauna many a time in my life. I'd probably put a B tier personally. Are you kind of feeling C?
I'm feeling C, but I could see B.
Well, I'm gonna give it low B. It's been too helpful in curse mode for me to not give it a little nod, just a teensy tiny nod, I think. And you get an item, right? It's not just a tomorrow room, right? You do get an item, so that's nice. Okay, next up is the secret garden. This is a crazy green room that can only be accessed from a locked door on the west and east side. When you use your secret garden key, it will unlock into it. It will also spread fruit throughout the house to give you more steps. There are levers, one of which is easy to access, one of which is not, but extremely powerful. What do you think, Shugros?
This one's kind of weird because you can't really like, you're not just going to see it drafting. You have to like pick kind of where you put it. And sometimes you want to put it somewhere and the door is not locked, so you can't use your key. Now that's really awkward. But that all being said, this room's kind of incredible because you can, like I said, the downside of like, oh, I can't just see it wherever I want. It's kind of, I would say it's an upside. You can put it where you want. You're like, I need a tea room here. I'm gonna use my secret garden key, and it's got 2 levers, which is insane. And it's a green room. It's got dig spots and it spreads fruit, which even without a conference room, it's pretty decent. So like it lets you backtrack through your house basically free because you'll pick up food in every now and then, which just kind of like makes up for your walking back. I think this room's easily S tier, like hands down. Like it's really valuable. It does so much. You can kind of put it wherever you want. Now you do need a secret garden key, but other than that, incredible.
I'm with you. It's an S tier room balanced by the fact that it's not something you are seeing every day and in your pool. Very, very powerful. The fact that it's not only, I mean, it's like a whole bunch of levers, and you also spread fruit throughout your day to make your day longer and even better, I think is just great. So yeah, solid room with dig spots. What the heck? All right, next up is the secret passage. It's a hallway that costs a gem. It also does count as a dead end for your special dead end run. You can pick one of the colored books, and you are guaranteed that all 3 of the options will be that color as you draft from it. What do you think, Shugros?
A secret passage is a weird room because it is just like a corridor, but you can kind of choose and decide what you want. I think it's really powerful, but the caveat that it's not always the most powerful when you just randomly pick it and you're like, oh, I guess I'll just pick a random like hallway or something like that. It's when you really want something in particular, like, okay, I need a kitchen. I'm running out of steps. I need more rooms. I'm going hallway. Like I need more steps. I need to get my nursery. I'm going bedrooms. It's you kind of need to know what you want from it for it to get max value. But once you do know what you want, yeah, it's an incredible room.
Yeah, secret passage is really interesting because oftentimes I'm not drafting it, especially in challenge modes where my gems are really, really important. I did mention earlier the fun of like picking a green room in the middle of the house and often just getting a free cloister or even like a free courtyard, right? Like there's some decent uses there. It is weird and funky, but I think that adds to a lot of its charm. I don't know how to rank it. It's probably like, I mean, the fact that you can also weed out the common rooms of a color and be more or less guaranteed a rare room is really, really cool, especially for when you're trying to get those master bedroom steps really badly, or it's really important to find that showroom and be able to buy out a whole bunch of stuff. So it's a bit intriguing. That's probably like a really low B tier.
I'm thinking it's an A tier, honestly. Like I think, yeah, like most of the time it's not gonna, maybe not even most time, but like a decent amount of time, it's just kind of a corridor that like costs a gem. But I think when it's good, it's insanely good. It's saving your run from like a dead end, or like I need this one room specifically. Like I want a showroom. Like I need steps. I need like when it's good, it's the upside is good enough that it's really incredible. That on the days where it's not as good, it's not even like that bad. You just go get another room. Yeah, it costs a gem, but when it's amazing, it's incredible. And when it's bad, it's not that bad.
No, that's a really good point. In fact, I should not be thinking from the challenge mode perspective. I should be thinking from the, the mid game player reaching room 46 perspective, right? In which case, yeah, secret passage is great. A lot of ways to play with it. No, I stand corrected. I do think it's an A-tier room. Just because it's not good in the early game doesn't mean that we don't love it in the position that we're at. Next up is the servant's quarter. This is a dead end bedroom. It does cost a gem. You will get 1 key for every bedroom that you've already drafted. You can also run payroll in here. What do you think,
The
Shugro?
servants' quarters. I mean, I think garage is A for like one gem for 3 keys, and obviously there's a little bit more effects in the garage, but it's good. You normally most times you get it, it's gonna be really late, and you're gonna have at least 3, maybe even more. And sometimes you get this, and you have most of your bedrooms drafted. You just get like 8 keys in the late game, which, like we said, late game most of the doors are locked up there, so keys are really at a premium. So yeah, I think when you're drafting this when you really need keys, and when you really need keys, this is what you want. And it's also a bedroom. You get some steps, some nursery synergy, some sleeping mask. So
I love bedrooms personally. It's probably worse than garage most of the time, but you do get synergies. And even if you get like 2 keys and some steps or something, like that's pretty solid. With like some cool scaling potential as the game goes later. Again, you can run payroll too, which is cool. Yeah, I don't know how to rank this though. I'm thinking
I think B tier. Because not all the time late game you're gonna actually need the keys. And yeah, like I said, you're not even when you do need the keys, sometimes you're not gonna get a lot of keys. So
yeah, I almost feel like it compares more favorably than a locksmith, right? I mean, that's another dead end that costs a gem that's also doesn't cost anything. So if you think of it from even that perspective, I think it's like at least pretty solid. You're going to get like you're probably getting 2 keys, right? Because you always get at least one baseline, and it's very likely you've drafted a boudoir or a bedroom ahead of time. So I think it's pretty solid.
you're probably getting 2, probably 3 most times. So it's just like a garage. And I will say, like, the locksmith, and we didn't talk about, is that room does get a lot better the later you play, because you're just gonna have an ungodly amount of allowance. So then you're not gonna really know what to do with your money. It becomes better then, but for sure, like when your allowance is not that high, locksmith is a little bit worse. But servants' quarters just kind of gives you, you know, 3 keys at the most part, or most of the time.
Yeah, with those synergies, which is cool. Okay, next up is the showroom. This is a shop that does cost 2 gems. It's a corridor, and you got some high value, powerful items in here. Even if you have just 20 coins, you can get something pretty notable in the showroom. What do you think, Shugros?
Showroom is one of the best payoffs for a coin build, or just one day you just get a lot of coins, like you open a vault. It's kind of what you're looking for. You're looking for a showroom, kind of spend a bunch, get like a really sweet item, and maybe like coat check it. That being said, it is 2 gems for like just a corridor that most of the time you just don't have enough money to do anything. Obviously, the later you get, the more allowance you have, it becomes incredible, because you're always at least able to buy something from here. But right off, like right after beating room 46, your allowance is probably not going to be that high. So most times it just kind of does nothing. It's a room that you can't really buy stuff in. It kind of gives you like something to strive for though that day, so that's cool. But oh man, it's weird, because if you have the money, it's insane. It's like one of the best rooms in the game. It's kind of what you're looking for. But if you don't have the money, it's kind of a do nothing. It's 2 gems basically wasted. So
I think the showroom is pretty interesting because, again, at 20 coins, you can get a moon pendant, which can let you save up to 2 random items in your inventory. Very powerful. Think about how rare that is. Think about how coat check can only get 1 of your best items. I love the moon pendant, especially with a trading post to manipulate the items you have. And then you can even get stuff like the master key, which can open up just about every key in the house completely, or emerald bracelets that solve your gems completely. It's very strong. Sure, it's not easy to get 60 to 80 coins necessarily, but it gets easier the more you play. And having access to even a moon pendant, I think, is already like a really good use for a room that continues. So I would put it in A tier personally. I like the showroom a lot.
yeah, I think if you can buy anything out of it, even a moon pendant, it's probably A tier. It's hard to evaluate, like, well, what's people's like allowance level. If you don't have a high allowance, if you don't have a lot of money, probably skip it. But if you have 20, 30, 40 gold, even if you don't have enough for like the big ticket items, like the mid tier items here are really powerful still. So I'm down for an A for sure.
Yeah, I feel like 20 coins isn't too much to ask for, and then heaven forbid you can snowball and get even more. It's pretty good. Okay, next up is the study. This is a dead end, and it's a great payoff for your gems. You can spend 1 gem to reroll your 3 room options basically anytime. What do you think, Shugros?
Study might be one of the most powerful rooms in the game. I think just re-rolling and even more than just like a couple re-rolls is really powerful when you're just like, I just really need a certain room or like a configuration or a T or something. Just being able to just re-roll more than once or twice is even once or twice is really powerful. But if you have like a lot of gems and you can just kind of go off, I think you can for every room you can re-roll up to 8 times. So there's that caveat. But I think this room's amazing. And late game, you will get to the point where some runs you freezered and you have like 30 gems, or even just randomly, just like you just have found a lot of gems that day. You did like a morning room, and you did a patio like with a bunch of green rooms. You dug up a bunch of gems with a jackhammer. You just found a bunch of gems in like in chests and stuff. You just have 20, 30 gems and you don't know what to do with them. You're like, I'm never spending these ever. Here's your payoff. You can go absolutely crazy. This room is amazing.
I love the study. I'm with you. I am a big hovel fan, as we talked about in that 1 tier list. What a great payoff for your gems. You know, having a laundry room to give you a whole bunch of gems, having a freezer the day before, you know, having a lot of gems. It sounds hard, but it's not nearly as hard as you might think. Even heaven forbid, that emerald bracelet we just talked about from the showroom. Then you also get a gem rebate. Then you also just get a gem in here to help you spend. I feel like people are always complaining about, I have not found this room. I really want this room. Okay, well, just draft a study, get a bunch of gems, have at it, and you will very likely get exactly what you need. I love this room, and I think it's an S tier. Okay, next up is the trophy room. This is an L-shaped room. It costs a whopping 5 gems, but you'll get 8 gems out of it. What do you think, Shug Rose?
The trophy room, it's one of the cooler looking rooms for sure. You walk in, you're like, ooh, it's fancy, you know, it's a trophy room. Your trophies are just in here, which is amazing. That being said, I mean, it's basically a glorified wine cellar with an extra door, and the cost to even draft it, it's 5 gems. Most times you're not gonna have 5 gems early on. I know we're talking about, yeah, like there'll be days where you have like 20, 30 gems, but even in that scenario, it's not that good because you'll have okay, we get 3 more gems. Yeah, and even the days where you do have like 20, 30 gems, like, and you can afford to buy this, like, okay, you get 3 more gems, like, whatever, it's not a big deal. You can axe this room, and then it becomes kind of pretty good. It's just plus 8, but I even find that kind of niche unless you could unless you like made it the rarity like lower and made it more likely to find. But I don't know, just the fact that you need 5 gems in your inventory is just. It just seems kind of bad.
That's a really good point, because you're right. Axe is one of the easiest combos you think of with a room like this, but then it is really rare, right? So are you better off axing a classroom where it's way more common and you can have 8 to 9 of them in your pool for a day, or an aquarium or a passageway that you're always going to see? Really interesting decision there, considering you only get 3 axe uses. Yeah, it's not really good unless you axe it. And even in that world, you really want to make sure you can bump up the rarity of it. So I think it's probably a C tier room, with the caveat that, yeah, if you do bump it up to a more common spot and axe it, it's probably the best room in your entire deck. But I think that's okay for a C room, right? It's situational. It's not going to be all that useful in most cases.
Yeah, it's probably a C room. I'm not that high on it. I'd probably go D, but I can see it being C for sure.
All right, next up is the vaults. You get 40 coins in this dead end room. Does cost 3 gems. What do you think, Shugraz?
This room's really weird. It's a dead end room that costs 3 gems. That's really a lot, but it gives you 40 gold. Now, 40 gold will really skyrocket you, let you buy something sweet from the showroom, let you just buy out commissaries, let you buy out kitchens, solves your gold game. It gets worse. Classic just gets worse later the more you play because you already have so much gold. What's 40 gold going to do for you? But when you don't have a lot of gold, 40 gold's a lot. So I think it's really powerful in that scenario. It does cost. It is 3 gems, which is pretty hefty, and it's a dead end. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about this. I could see it being C. I could see it even being B if you really need some gold.
Yeah, the main thing I think of is less the gold and more just like how often I'll find like a safety deposit key that I will really badly need a vault for. And it's one of those things where it's like, do I want to give up a powerful item to coat check this? You know, I wish the vault would show up a little more often. So vault is funny for me in that I mostly use it as like a puzzle outlet more than anything else. I think C tier is fair for it though. 3 gems is a lot. And usually the things that you want to spend your coins on will also require gems. Your laundry room takes 1, your showroom takes 2. So you really need your gem game figured out to have a good vault day. Could see a world where you axe it. I don't know that that's my favorite use of it, but it is 3 gems you'll save. So I don't know. I'd probably a C2 room.
Yeah, I will say if you have a safety deposit key, you probably want to draft a vault to use it because I'm pretty sure, now don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure if you use a safety deposit key, you will not see that safety deposit key ever again, which means that is like a lot of, and if you use them all up, then you won't see safety deposit keys, which means you'll just see good items instead of just kind of a quote unquote useless key.
All right, next up is the Veranda. It's a green room that costs 2 gems. You can only find it on the east and the west wing. It makes you more likely to find items in your green rooms. What do you think of the Veranda?
Wow, kind of the opposite of a Maid's Chamber, and you know how I feel about Maid's Chamber. I love Veranda. If I see a Veranda early, I am doing a green build. It's just really fun opening a room, seeing like 3 items, plus like some chests, some dig spots. It's actually really, really powerful. I don't know what the luck modifier in this game is, but like it's it's really good. You get a lot of items. I love this room.
It is solid for sure. And the fact that you can get it free with a terrace, or the fact that a patio can give it a rebate, gives it even more value than it. And I love that it continues. So many green rooms just dead end on the wings. So I think Veranda is really solid. Possibly an A tier room. Hard to say. Maybe B tier.
I think its effect's really strong.
And like Shagras said, if you see it, you're going to have a green day, right? Like you're going to build around the power of this room to really squeeze the most mileage out of it, in which case you're going to have an excellent day.
I will say if you see it late after, you don't have a lot of rooms left, or you've already drafted a lot of green rooms, it's not as good because obviously you can't, it only matters when you open the room. So in that scenario, it's not that good. But if you see it, like if you only have a couple of 1 or 2 other green rooms, or if it's even your first green room, it's really powerful.
All right, next up is the weight room. I love this room just like Archives. It's a red room. It's 4 pathways with no gem cost. It can get powered. There's even a lever in here with a power hammer. You might even find some items in here, but holy cow, you're losing half your steps. What do you think, Shagraz?
All right, here's the, I'm a little bit of a red fan if you guys don't know already, but this room, unlike the Archives, which like I said, the Archives, I was saying if it wasn't for its downside, it'd be S tier. This room, I don't think its downside is that detrimental that even lowers it even 1 rank. I think this room is easily S tier. Like I'm down. I'll weight room at like 70 steps. So I'll see me there. Like I'll lose 35 steps for this. Like I'll make those steps back somewhere. And if you do it later in the game, yeah, you lose 5-10 steps. Yeah, it's a little scary because you're probably not gonna be left with too much, but you can figure something out. And man, just a free 4-way. That's all I ever wanted.
We had a community poll on YouTube that was really fun because the answers for how you, the audience, ranked the weight room were so polarizing. The range was absolutely wild, and the comments were really great too. I think that people are mostly sleeping on the weight room, just like Shagraz said. I also think that it's an S tier room. Steps are scary. Yes, they can end your day when you lose a lot of them, but the power of a lever in here, so unbelievable. And it's not like the Archives where it's like constantly screwing you. You can eat your dinner afterward. You can try your best to get more bedrooms. There's a lot of ways to play around that and mitigate it. In fact, this was how I won my dare mode. I was able to make a common, which meant that it was easily shelterable. And that just gave me a really free antechamber lever, unlike a lot of the other rooms where you have to really work for it. So love me a weight room. And then the fact that it costs 0 gems to give you all those pathways that are powered with electricity, excellent room. Do not sleep on it. I know there were a lot of polarizing responses on that poll, but it's a really strong room.
Yeah, and I know it's really scary for most people losing steps. It's like, oh, that's kind of the only thing that they care about. But I'm really telling you, steps don't matter. Yes, there will be a couple days where you draft weight room and you die on steps. And there's just some days you don't even draft weight room and you die on steps. But for the most part, the steps don't really matter. So I would say get your nurseries, get your sleeping masks, and get your weight room, honestly.
All right, next up is the Wine Cellar. It's a dead end that gives you 3 gems. What do you think?
Wine cellar. This room, I think, is really strong. Maybe, probably like before you beat the game, like before you get to room 46, because that's when it's hard to, resources are harder to come by. You don't really know too much, and just 3 gems is really, really powerful. That being said, after room 46, you probably have enough knowledge to get stuff, to get items and gems and stuff. And then who's dead ending for a wine cellar, honestly? I think it's okay. It is a powerful closet, but it's only if you really only want gems. I don't know. I'm really down on wine cellar, I'd say.
I couldn't agree more. I think it compares poorly to the walk-in closet, which even though that costs a gem, you're getting 4 items, one of which is probably a rebate. You can maybe squeeze more value out of that with her Ladyship's Chambers. And then I also think it compares poorly to Parlor. I would rather have 2 gems and a pathway that continues, because then you can drop another dead end after it. So I personally think it's weak. I'm not as mean as D tier, but I think it's a C tier room.
I think it's a low C tier room. I will say you can find dig spots here, so not nothing, but it's like you'd rather have the chance of I'd rather have the chance of getting a lucky rabbit's foot, getting like a key card, getting a key and like a gem from a closet than like 3 gems. And obviously if you need the gems, you need the gems and draft it, but for the most part, I think there are better dead ends to draft.
Last but not least, we've got the workshop. This is a corridor. It will always have an item. Sometimes it's a crummy little coin purse, but it's usually something great like a battery pack or a broken lever, and you can make contraptions. What do you think, Shruggraz?
This room, I think like everyone that's here probably knows this room's amazing. It's just a workshop will give you a good item, and it lets you fuse items and build something really good that you can play your days around. Power hammer is one of the best items of the game. Jackhammer is insane, the amount of stuff it gives you. And there's a lot of other fun contraptions you can make that really change how you play, which is really fun when you're kind of maybe doing the same old every day, and it's really nice to be able to mix it up. And they're just powerful. It's powerful stuff in here. I think it's really good.
Yeah, the fact that it continues, I think, cannot be understated. The fact that it continues, because you would expect a room this powerful, in my opinion, to be a dead end, but it's not. You always get an item. It's usually very good. You're sad when it's a coin purse, but it's usually relevant. And the fact that you can make some of the best items in the entire game and even get a trophy out of making all these contraptions, I think it's an S tier room. I think it's so important. And I think it continues to be important even after you reach room 46.
Yeah, I'm sure I haven't even like found all the uses for like power hammers and burning glass yet. So yeah, I love most of the contraptions. They're really good. Dowsing rod's so super fun. Jackhammer is just insanely powerful. Yeah, electromagnet's really good. Amazing room, S tier easily.
Well, I love looking at this spread right now that we've more or less divvied them up pretty evenly. I don't see anything that really strikes me as super crazy. Do you have any last thoughts, Shruggraz?
Secret Garden's probably better than Foundation, but other than that, I think it's the fact that you can place Secret Garden kind of anywhere you want is just like insane.
Well, that was our tier list, folks. Thank you as always for listening all the way to the end. Thank you to our good friend Shruggraz, who lends us his skill and expertise and helps me make better choices myself. Let us know what tier list you guys would like to see next. We're thinking about doing something crazy like upgrades or maybe even lab experiments, so that could be really fun. As always, I'm Scoutmaster Demi. See you around the camp.